So everyone, welcome Laci. She's here with Turning Point USA, and I think it's really good to listen to her because we had talked about even we need to be more involved in schools. So I think it's good to find out what they're doing and how we can work with them. So it's all yours.
All right. So hi guys. Thank you so much for having me, and gals. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody, but you know, it is what it is. Basically, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about myself. And then we'll kind of work into Turning Point and Charlie and all that, which is obviously the exciting stuff. We'll talk about a little what happened last Monday at University of Northern Colorado with Will Witt. But first and foremost, I kind of got into the conservative movement on accident. I was a golfer in high school, and I was just really worn out, and my parents wanted me to go for that scholarship, and I pretty much bombed it on purpose. Because I was tired and I wanted to do something else with my life. I remember always arguing in the lunchroom in high school with some of the people of the black community, the gay community, anybody that's on the identity politics pyramid, the intersectionality pyramid, about why Obamacare was immoral. As a high schooler, not too many people were on that level. I was told to shut up quite a few times, but I kind of let it lie, and then I got into college, and I really wanted to focus on political science, which is what I got my major in at CU Denver. I went to UNC for 1 year and then transferred down. During this time, my first year of college, I had a boyfriend, and his mom was the ultra-feminist. She was down there at all the parades and everything, and I'd get into the biggest arguments with her. And I just could not see that being, because I really thought I was going to marry this guy. I thought that was going to be my mother-in-law, and I was like, this is not going to work for me. So I started writing articles for The Odyssey. It's like an online blog that a lot of college students do in order to express their political opinions and just cultural opinions. In general, I'm a big believer. Culture is upstream of politics. It's Andrew Breitbart, and I still believe that. So I started writing these articles, and all of a sudden I get hundreds of text messages. Why are you writing this about me? And I'm like, I didn't write this about you. I'm just writing, what I see. Writers write what they know. And it ended up being about this frat party that I wasn't super keen on. We were talking about Me Too kind of at this portion of our lives, and I was like, it's just not really all lining up for me. And this boyfriend was so mad. He was like, you know what, you need to just stop talking about things. You need to stop talking about my friends, very protective over his friends. And eventually one day I was just so mad that I was done with it. And I said, I'm just going to keep writing. I'm good. Thanks, though. So then I sat next to this guy in my political science class, my intro class, and he had a Ted Cruz sticker on his laptop, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's brave. I got to sit next to him. He might be the only conservative in this entire class. And at that point, I didn't even know who I was going to vote for. This was October, and like a month before the election, I was deciding between Cruz and Trump, and I'd always grown up loving Trump simply because my mom graduated with an architecture degree. And we always grew up, loving Donald Trump just because of his business professional side. So I hadn't decided yet. And so I ended up becoming really good friends with this guy. And he said, I know you're kind of down and you really want to work on yourself. I know you're going to church and doing all that stuff that you should be doing, but you might want to look into this conference. And so he sends it to me on Facebook. It's called the Young Women's Leadership Summit. And we host that every year in Dallas, Texas. It's coming up. And the two big headliners were Tomi Lahren, which as a blonde conservative female, I was like, that looks like me. That's probably a pretty good role model. And then Ben Shapiro, which I'm a Ben Shapiro stan, love the man. Got a slight crush on him behind Tucker Carlson, my lock screen. That's a whole other thing. And so I went, and I'd never traveled on my own before. I was so nervous. I had grown up kind of in Denver. I had traveled a lot outside of, the country and this and that, but never on my own. And so I just kind of took a chance, and the first girl I met, she actually works for a sister company now. We've been friends ever since. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And I listened to one Charlie Kirk speech, and this was back when he wore New Balance tennis shoes, khaki pants. Very young-looking Charlie, and intellectually, he was still miles beyond me, but
how old is he?
He's 26, 27 now, somewhere in that range. And so it wasn't the Charlie that's, very streamlined, beautiful girlfriend, none of that existed yet. It was just, a few hundred chapters, And they were doing stuff on college campuses, but I suddenly connected, the ideas of freedom of thought and individual responsibility and American exceptionalism. I suddenly understood why I never really got along with anybody in high school or college or, those kids at the frat party. It just didn't interest me. I love to have a glass of wine. I'm like you guys, but I wasn't out there, doing lines of cocaine and just this and that in college parties, which is the college experience. And so I started to, really engage with that speech. And I ended up meeting Will Witt there, who works for PragerU now, and he says, I know you. And I said, I don't really know you, which is kind of, he hates me bringing that up, but I had to do it. This is the second time in 2 weeks. He'll probably kill me. But he said, I know you're moving to CU Denver. I would really like you to come help this chapter. So I started as a member and then a secretary, a vice president, and then a president, and then shortly after I moved into hiring and recruiting for my last 2 years of college. I expanded their campus coordinator program. It's like a mini version of what I do on individual campuses. And I helped expand that program, but I desperately missed the field. So, field work is setting up a table on campus and basically getting yelled at. It's those viral videos. And that doesn't happen every day, but it does happen weekly, I will say that. But that really fuels the fire, and I was missing kind of the fuel to my fire. And so I took this job. My boss now actually used to be a student with me and a president at UNC, and so I have a really great relationship with my boss, so it's allowed me to excel. Kind of when I started, we only had the beginning of this year, it was only 20 or so chapters with a lot of fallout. A lot of people had graduated. A lot of people had moved out to college or in different states and gone to other chapters. And so our main focus this year has been high school involvement. And now we have about 17 original high schools that have started all across Colorado and then, obviously southern Wyoming and northern New Mexico. And we've really worked hard on college involvement as well. I'm on every major college campus across these areas. I'm just missing some of like the Front Ranges and this and that, but we made it to Pikes Peak Community College. We've been tabling and having consistent leadership and members at every single campus. It's been really hard because of Zoom. I'm sure you guys know if you're part of HOA boards or any meeting for business, it's extremely hard for college campuses. So that brings me kind of back to where I am with Will Witt. Last Monday, we actually, I don't know if you guys have seen it, if you follow Prager or Will or anybody like that, but I was explaining to these guys, University of Northern Colorado had Will Witt. And his big thing is he doesn't sacrifice his morals at all or values for who he is. And I think we need to kind of engage a little bit more as college students specifically. We're willing to, write like Bernie Sanders and just get through. And, I wanted to go to law school, still kind of tinkering with that. And so I decided to write like Bernie and speak like Donald Trump in class. But I'm kind of telling my students not to do that, to stand up for yourself. So Will ended up taking off his mask in the middle of his speech, which none of us thought he was going to do. He was supposed to wear a mask, which I'm kind of happy that he did it because it actually shined a light on this chapter because we had to let protesters in. It's a publicly funded building. They're banging on the backs of all the chairs. They're disruptive. They kind of close in on Will. He had to be escorted out of this facility by security. The UNCO police really did not do anything. I'm going to be completely honest. I did not feel safe. As a girl, I always think that, the gun is a great equalizer. Well, I didn't have my gun with me, obviously. I know we are all concealed carry campuses, but, we had the police there. I thought we were fine. The UNCO police did absolutely nothing.
Who
No.
was banging on things? Like
BLM and Black Panther, and they had all their flags, and actually the Toxic Masculinity Club as well.
So they were
the thing.
infiltrating the speech.
He was there just to do a speech.
Just to do a speech on the Vision for America. It wasn't about BLM or
Yeah, Will
anything.
Witt's so crazy.
He's
Was
a
he speaking to a certain class or
no. We did a huge speech through Turning Point, and
and just turning points on their radar as a group?
always. Well, we had the
know what
event
it is.
posted for a few weeks, and they kind of just knew it was going to be happening. And so all of a sudden, all these like meetings, because they have to schedule meetings, pop up for the Toxic Masculinity Club, and all these different ones. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you don't have registered student org status, but okay. And so right now on Thursday, we're going to be going through all that. They're going to try and suspend my chapter president. We've been working with ADF.
Because of what somebody else did?
Yep, because of what somebody else did, which, that's kind of how they do. They collectively punish. They don't believe in the individual. It's just, at least they're stand true to that, right? So we're kind of dealing from the fallout with that, but it's really been kind of a bummer. But if anything, we're using that to kind of set the narrative. They're using COVID right now as a means to shut down free speech. They are. You have to register for table like you used to have to, but now it's a microaggression to take off your mask. I actually had somebody say to me on CU Boulder's campus.
Is that a legitimate term in terms of their
microaggression?
I've heard it before, but do they
Like punishable offense?
It's like in their student laws
Yeah.
or bylaws or
Yeah,
something?
and I don't know if that was something that they just said, not UNC. If this was at CU Boulder, the microaggression language I'm talking about, but I kind of got into it, as I pretty much normally do on a weekly basis at CU Boulder. This guy comes up to me and he says, "Why aren't you wearing your mask?" I'm like, "I'm literally eating my food right now. Can you just leave me alone?" I'm like, "Why are you so close to me to begin with? Seriously, why are you so close to me? You creep." But so we go back and forth, and I'm reciting different statistics from the CDC, and then he goes back and forth with me, and he just starts blurting off, "Oh, you're a great case for abortion. I really wish you would have died in the first round of COVID." I'm like, "Oh, that's a really kind thing to say to people. Why don't you go give somebody a hug? Maybe you'll feel better."
Just a
This is a student. This happens
CU
pretty.
Boulder, yeah.
CU Boulder.
Well, that's expected.
Yeah, but I mean, CU Denver, I got a lot of it too as a student. So, I mean, it is what it is. But kind of our main focus as Turning Point USA is to educate these students on free market capitalism, free speech, and limited government. And that's kind of our claim to fame. We have giant conferences throughout the entire year. We have a few coming up this summer with our Young Women's Leadership. We have our Student Action Summit that happens in December. That's open to everybody, you guys included. And SAS is so much fun. That's what we've nicknamed it as, SAS. And we bring anybody who's anybody in conservative politics there. You name it, they're there. We've got, Rob Smith, one of our contributors. We've got Charlie, of course, Donald Trump Jr., everybody comes. And so that's a way kind of to celebrate the fact that you're conservative. We also have all of these chapters do weekly meetings, and they're pretty successful. CU Boulder has retained, with online viewership, 30 people on average, sometimes more, sometimes 50, sometimes 20, throughout the entire year, of conservatives just saying, "Oh, I was afraid to be conservative." Now they have an entire network. That's my big goal, is having the Rockies territory be completely united, so then if you go anywhere in your entire state, or Wyoming or New Mexico, you have a friend or you have somebody to talk to. I still have friends from that very same conference that I'm able to hang out with in Utah and basically all 50 states. So it's a network for young people to kind of catch them before or during that college experience, and that's why we're going into high school right now, because we're starting to see more of the problem there. And so we're going to be doing more and more events. My goal is to have all of you guys there if you'd like. Also to get you guys on the email list, as well as just kind of engaging with some of our younger conservatives. I have a few chapter leaders that are, gay and lesbian. I'm sure they'd love to come because they feel, I think, ostracized the most. And I'm sure you guys, this is not something I identify with, so I'm sure you guys could speak to this, but I'm sure it's very, very difficult being gay or lesbian in a world where you're also conservative. Conservatives accept you, but everybody on the other side, they hate you twice as much. I feel that as a girl. I understand what that's like, going down to the Women's March, holding my socialism sucks sign. I can't do that. So I can't even imagine what it's like, but yes. It was scary. A little scary. They're not the nicest gals. Not people I'd want to be friends with. We're not in a sorority together. Definitely not braiding each other's hair. Definitely not. But yeah, so I think my big goal would be to kind of work in conjunction with you guys, invite you guys to as many meetings as we possibly can have you at, even as guest speakers, kind of sharing your experiences, what it was like if you're a small business owner. I don't really like to play, the female card, the gay card, or any of that, but I mean, if it's something that is part of who you are, then feel free to share. So, yeah, that's pretty much what I have. If you guys have questions. What?
This was like this past year. I have a big rainbow Gadsden flag, and I'm like, I'm not usually the kind of person that like waves my rainbow flag
Right.
in there, but I'm like now, like I want people to know I exist.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm screaming at people. I'm
Love
a Native
that.
American Latino gay man. And I support Donald Trump.
And people
were
are like, their heads are
freaked out.
spinning. I love that. I
There
almost
is
brought
a
you guys
time to
cupcakes.
throw that
And they had the gay
identity
pride
out there
flag.
and
I wish I would have known.
use it back.
So that was a turning point thing when we went to Ann Coulter, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we went to Ann Coulter to see you.
Yeah, Ann Coulter. I was a student back then. But we're looking to bring bigger speakers. I can't say
But they
anything.
weren't as bad as they were what you were talking about.
I
I
think
mean,
COVID
they all
pissed
got
people
up
off.
and left, and then they're like a
That was
couple of
pretty much
beta
it.
males in the back.
Oh yeah, the
like the
heavy
whole time.
breathing,
And I'm
huffing and
like,
puffing.
Well, why are you even here? Like, you knew what you were
Why
gonna
are
say.
you even here? You might as well give that seat to somebody who actually wants it, which now with COVID restrictions, it's even harder. I don't know if you saw what happened in Boulder on the Hill. Basically, they had a huge college party. It went viral, and they were like flipping. It's an outgrowth of COVID, and that's what's happening in our political system as well as the conservative system. It's kind of a shock. Where people are getting more and more angry if you're a college campus conservative. Got to figure out something to do. It's pretty terrifying right now. So if you guys have contacts for meeting spaces for these kids in Denver, in Boulder, anywhere, they're trying to find space to meet and engage with other people. That's the big problem we're running into. Yeah. So if you guys have questions, feel free. I graduated last year, and I didn't have a real graduation. So I'm naturally just that much more pissed off at the government.
You're lucky. I graduated in 2017, but like I ran the Trump campaign for the Western Slope in 2016. So
Oh, you
that
did?
was my last year of college, and I definitely remember that.
Well, it's far worse.
Oh, it was brutal. You
It was
like,
bad
stuff,
then.
Like on your door. Your
Oh, it was
inbox,
bad. I remember because I was a freshman
things on
back
your
then.
car.
Things on your car,
God,
all
the
the
time.
stuff. It's bad, especially when you're a female. They think they can walk all over you. Sure, as a guy, you're kind of like, are you gonna mess with me? You know.
Yeah, but none of them do it to your face. That's the part.
Girls are far worse. They will talk behind your back.
Oh, the girls will do it.
Yeah, I found
they
that
send
place
the girls
too.
after
The
you.
college-age
Oh, yeah.
girls right now are the worst.
It's the sororities.
They're the ones who I get. Like, you have to have the most interactions with.
It's the sororities. It's the
Attacks.
Alpha Phes at CU
So
Boulder.
what's your parameters? Kind of are you down to Denver or?
I am all in Colorado, then southern Wyoming, northern New Mexico. Basically, I touch down to UNM and then up to Laramie and then Cheyenne. That's kind of my
where are you
area.
located? Central Denver.
Me, I live in Longmont. But that's about 45 minutes from every major college campus. So that's not a bad drive at all. Not a bad drive at all. And I enjoy being with everybody on campus because I think a lot of our chapter leaders are newer and they're kind of, just dipping their feet in the water, but I don't think they're going to realize how intense it's truly going to get next year.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Have you experienced any blowback from the other side, like
The far right or?
Yeah, I'm talking about the gropers.
Oh yeah, they're there. I actually had to have a conversation with a former student. I'm like, you're not allowed in here. We're not going to have a conversation with white supremacists. It's disgusting. I don't. And Charlie is very, very honest about the fact he wants nothing to do with those people. In fact, I think it was 2 years ago, we had Charlie and Candace at CU Boulder, and there was an insane person, to put it lightly, that was part of the alt-right, and he tried to make the case for, it was basically eugenics, I think. And he was like, I need you to leave. Like, we're done with that. I pretty much shout it down any chance I get. I do not like people like Nick Fuentes. He's ruined our events in the past.
What if?
Yeah, I'm proudly blocked by Fuentes and like half. the
Good for you.
group
That's
on
a badge
Twitter.
of honor.
What about
That's what I think.
Michelle Malkin? Like, I used to love her, and then the next thing I knew, she was like defending. But it was, I tried to read her article, and it was more from we can't tell them not to talk because we can't engage in cancel culture. So I don't know what to think anymore. So I just want your-
Self-identified groper mommy.
Oh, shit.
Self-identified groper mommy.
She
kinda defended
became a big defender of Nick Fuentes.
I'm not a fan of that. And I know Charlie probably wouldn't be either. Turning Point,
Well, I think that's so-
I'd say probably no.
But
The thing that's so weird about her is that she lives in Manitou Springs, which is like the Wiccan capital of the United
Literally.
States. And it's like she's living in a liberal city, but she's not welcoming to other people, because I messaged her a couple times on, I don't know if it was Facebook or something else, and just said, I understand you live in the Colorado Springs area, but there are people that aren't like, ultra conservative. There are other people that are wanting to be part of the group.
I don't follow her on Twitter, so I don't follow her as close as I used to. I used to follow her, but then I heard about the whole Nick thing. I'm always willing to have a conversation with anybody and everybody. That's part of that free speech we need to engage in, and diversity of thought. However, making excuses for people that want to flip this movement and turn it alt-right, maybe not. Maybe not. Not a fan.
Who's Nick?
Former Turning Point activist.
How much time do you have?
Yeah, how much time do you have? He used to be a member of ours, but only an attender of conferences, and he basically thought that he's a white nationalist, basically, and he thinks that, males are going to save this planet from all the isms.
Okay.
He thinks that they want to take us over to wipe out the white people.
He's very
And I think they want to
suspicious.
take us over to wipe out the liberals. Isn't that kind of the difference between us?
I mean, so to speak. I mean, Nick is... I had a very close friend of mine that kind of went over to the dark side, and it's weird. It's like a disease entering the brain. It really is. It's just as powerful and as dangerous as leftism.
I argued with a few of them on Twitter. And it's
They're gross. I don't claim that. They're not conservatives. Many of them actually advocate for big government.
No, you can hold on to it.
So they're right in line with the KKK and, all those people that were doing whatever they did in Ferguson, same type of people.
That far?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. If you kind of look online and really get into what Nick writes, his speeches, it's gross.
And you said that Michelle Malkin was sticking up for him?
I think she was sticking up for him in
Yeah,
some
she's
article.
identified herself as the Groyper mommy.
I don't know too much about it.
So they
but-
had that counter conference to CPAC at the same time.
Yeah.
And so she was there with Nick Fuentes and Jaden McNeil. And
That would be
she
my
called her
friend I'm
a-
talking
They had some
about.
sort of counter CPAC thing?
Yep, counter programming.
Michelle Malkin did?
Yep.
Is that the one that Marjorie Taylor Greene was at?
Yeah, I think so.
know.
I think she might have been there.
I struggle with
They
her.
didn't
know
want to
that-
be part of CPAC or what?
So, say that again.
They didn't want to be part of CPAC? Or
No, they're saying, hey, CPAC has gotten way too mainstream and way too pandering, and so we're going to present you the true conservatives, and we're going to do it right here.
But all of them advocate for big government. Almost all of
It's
them
like one
do.
extreme to the other. It's like you got the crazy liberals, and then you've got the crazy conservatives.
They have more in common than we do
It's
with
kind of
those
hard to
people.
classify Michelle Malkin as a white nationalist because she's Filipino.
Right. I mean, because I've read her stuff
She'll be
forever,
first to
and I
go.
always liked her until
met her
all of a
I've
sudden
met her
this
a couple
thing
of times.
happened, and I'm like, I don't know if this doesn't feel good. I don't like it.
Yeah, that friend of mine was Jaden McNeil, and he's one of the original people. He used to be a really good
That's why I asked
person.
the question I did, because he just like flipped things over at KSU.
I'm not a
What
fan.
projects do you guys have going forward that maybe like
So I can't really reveal too much about next semester because I'm currently in the email process, but we will have some big speakers, big names at CU, probably UNC and CSU are kind of main anchor schools.
because we could I remember, like I said, a lot of our membership would be interested in doing helping with things.
We'd love that. Honestly, our big thing is we need people in a room. We just need attendance. We need numbers. Bring your kids, bring your grandkids. I mean, bring your best friend, bring your significant other.
I went to camp culture.
Yeah, it was really good. That was good.
UNC, like, I didn't know if I could bring a vehicle of people over, and truly it'd be, like, I'd
Yep.
love to attend, so I watched the videos of that stuff, I'd love to go to an
Yeah, Will
actual-
was our last big one for this semester. We have 2 weeks left, and then most kids are getting out of school, so we're kind of planning for next year. We're in the planning process for a lot of big speakers, but this year we did Isabel Brown a few times. She actually started the chapter at CSU. She's a contributor for us. She's frequently on Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, you name it, she's been there.
And she's graduated CSU, right?
Yes, and she's one of my very close friends as well. So I'm a very big fan of her. And then Young Americans Against Socialism. Their founder, her name's Morgan Zegger. She talks about communism and socialism and kind of, big authoritarian government. We've had her a few times. Obviously, we had Will. Who else did we have? We had Alex Clark, who does Poplitics. If you don't watch it, that is a fun show. It's pop culture without the propaganda. It's like a 10-minute video Turning Point puts on, and we talk about what's going on in culture, which is so important. So we've had her. Gosh, who else have we had? We've had a lot of people. Oh, Charlotte Pence. We had her speak at the University of Wyoming via Zoom. That was really fun. That was a good time. So,
Do you guys keep videos on the site, or is there a YouTube channel for
there
it?
is.
Okay, 'cause
Actually, if you just
honestly,
Google
I've
Turning
not
Point
been on,
USA.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
you're
should've done my
good.
homework.
No, you're totally fine. We have a lot of the speeches, and two, I mentioned before, we have our big Student Action Summit in December. You guys are invited to that. It's in West Palm Beach. It's like a fun vacation around Christmas.
Well.
Yes. You're like, wow, we're going. It's Party Central. It's definitely a fun time.
When is it?
When is it?
It's like the week before Christmas.
Okay,
And
plenty of time to get into bikini.
Yes,
shape.
gotta get into bikini shape. Yeah, most of the staff either goes
to plan
early.
a good trip for swimsuit season
Exactly.
all year long, or else
Right.
it's skinny.
Most of the staff actually goes either earlier or stays later just to kind of, veg out, basically. Because we have a little bit of a break. We have like a teacher's schedule, so I don't know. It's a lot of fun, and all the big names are there. Like I said, Donald Trump Jr., Mike Pence, we have them all. They're all there. So it's definitely worthwhile to go.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming. So, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. This is such a good place.
And definitely let us know how we can help.